Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Collective. We have another fantastic show planned out for you, but as we all know, no plan survives first contact, right? And so, first thing, before we do anything, before anything else derails my train of thought, I want to make sure everybody likes, subscribes, hits the notification bell, and that way you get notified every day with a little email saying, "Good morning. There's a live video that everyone would like to talk to." And here we are. We have a couple quick comments. Jassa, good to see you. And Winterstorm, good morning as well. Any, let's do a quick little intro here. Dave, you're former military, now author, and
yogi. I like to do yoga and meditate.
Oh no!
And write
Oh, we've got a namaste.
it's on.
Sorry,
it's all good. Did I miss anything? Anything else you want to let the world know who you are?
Father, husband, and just general light worker. That's how I see it.
General light worker, like you just kind of do a little bit of light work. Oh, like light work.
Like no heavy,
no heavy lifting for this dude.
Yeah, 15 pounds max. That's it. He's got all those muscles. Doesn't lift anything heavy. I like it.
Just spirit. I lift spirit.
Spirit. There we go. I like that. And Shane, thanks for joining us. CEO and President Shane Holmes, as you can all see, it's written right there. But what else? Who are you outside of the title?
Who am I outside of the title? I'm a happy father to a 23-year-old, almost 23-year-old, and husband to my partner, Matt, who we've been together now for about 8 years.
Awesome. That's awesome. Do you guys any thoughts or questions before we go into the topic of the day? I have a really good one that I'm very excited to put up here because I've been holding on to it for a while because Shaun keeps taking over the freaking conversation.
I'm going to take it over right now for 30 seconds.
What do you got?
Shane, I just had a quick question for you. I saw your photos as you were banging around down in the desert there. How was the trip? I mean, it looked good. You kind of inferred that it was good, but I don't think I ever got the Shane recap or the Shaun recap in this case of how it was. How was it?
It was amazing. It was amazing. Anything to get out of winter at this point, but we've done something we've never, for whatever reason, all these years later, never done before. And we went up to Sedona, and what a magical place to be in.
It's got a vibe, right?
It does. It
does have a vibe. Yes.
With the mountains so close by, I think we spent more time taking pictures of the scenery around than.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
I
would go back there. I would like to spend a whole week there and hike around again.
Now, I'm not kidding when I say it's got a vibe. Did you feel the vibe?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Yes, because we went hunting for a vortex or two while we were there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, good man. I dig it. And if you'd have known David Lee Sedai before you went down there, you could have got your light. You could have been hunting some light as well. Exactly. Not light work, though. Not light work.
It's funny when you said light work, the first thing that kicked in my head was light duties. I was like,
me too.
Just light duties all the time, not doing it.
I've been surrounded by psychics for the last 4 weeks now. So it's weird when you're in an environment because like the army is one and that's got a vibe, and then the psychics, they got a vibe too, and so the light worker kind of mentality that I've kind of developed, I guess, is just because like when you're around these like cosmic antennas of information and high intuition, you yourself begin to elevate your abilities. And like, that's what I really got from this experience so far. It's been incredible to be around people that resonate on high frequencies, especially when you're surrounded by a lot of people that are low frequency.
Yeah, it's a noticeable delta. It's an obvious delta when you step into a room full of that versus something else. And I was only teasing you with the light work. I knew immediately what you were talking about, of course. But you could have been referring to lightsabers as well, because I mean that was just a recent thing as well. So I do vibe with you on this one, and here's why. It's not like I read a book about it once, and then I thought it was a thing. I've been surrounded by it myself for a chunk of my life as well. My mom, she lives in Northern Ireland and has lived there for quite some time now since I joined the army. And people from all over Ireland travel to go see her, or used to, not quite so much as anymore because she's quite old, but used to travel to see her to get their quote unquote fortunes read or their future told. Yeah. And she could do it through cards or tea leaves or whatever, lots of different mediums. And listen, they're not just stories that family relays to me when I go back to Ireland every once in a while. I've been stopped on a sidewalk in Oma County, Tyrone, walking down the sidewalk. And usually because I look like this, and they'll look at me and think, who's that stranger in town? And they'll stop me and say, hey, are you Bridget Taylor's son? Yeah, I am. Did you know? And then they relay a story to me. And it's not just a one-time thing. I've been stopped several times by random people who just look at me and think, I think you might be Shaun Taylor. They tell me stories about how they've gone to visit my mom and their futures have been told, and the future has played out that way. And so whatever, man, like, is it real or is it not real? I don't actually care, because like, what you choose to buy into, what you believe in, is what shapes your world. And so you shaping your world through light work is a far better way to live life than not even believing that there is this ability to shape your creation, shape your life, shape your existence, shape your future.
Yeah, I've heard Ireland in itself is like a magical place. So your mom is probably doing some incredible work there. I'm sure just illuminated by the environment. But
indeed,
yeah, like once you kind of have that dark depth of your mind that you get to, like I've experienced anxiety, depression, even suicide ideation, and that's what pushed me to like it was the catalyst that catapulted me to this light, because once you know the darkest depths, then you can ascend, and from that bottom, it's only up, right? So that's the message that I definitely have committed myself to, because I realized that when I was in an institution of like the army, I was so replaceable. It showed me that when I took parental leave. I left thinking I'm letting my guys down. I'm such an integral piece of this, unit. And then when I pulled myself away to be with family for 6 months and then reintroduced myself back, I realized how goddamn replaceable I was. And then I knew that everything I've been through and everything I know and everything that I can do isn't replaceable. So that's when I got out and wrote my book, because that's something that, again, nobody else could do. So that was what started this whole kind of light work thing. Was I just wanted to share with other people, like, hey, there's a message where you could cope with your anxiety. There's a message that you could cope with your depression. But my thing is all about transcending it, because the mind is the most powerful tool in the universe, and we are not given an owner's manual. So if it's set in a way where we're experiencing these things because we don't have the skills to navigate out or to widen our perception or open our mind, I want to be that force that provides information and proof and permission for people to be authentic to themselves. And that's all I'm about.
Yeah, well, believe me, there was a time in my life where I never thought I'd be standing in front of a freaky little microphone saying my mom tells fortunes. Okay, so I get it, and there's no way in hell I would ever say that out loud if I didn't consciously think about it a split second beforehand and think that's the right thing to say. It's the right thing to say because not too many people expect a dude like me to be chirping about things like this.
Same here.
So I want people to think outside of their own little box that they've created, this thought construct that they've set for themselves in their lives for quite some time, and just look outside of it a little bit and see what's positive in the world beyond their own tiny little existence.
Yeah, a lot of people are contained to an identity, but the truth is that we are in this perpetual evolution of that. And so it's always like a constant redefining. But again, most people speak themselves with like a spell into I am this, I am that. And then they create these limitations, live in a box, and then struggle. And then, why do that? But it's because we are just kind of thrown into this world, not given the tools to live a life true to ourselves, and therefore lack that understanding of how to live free and open and in that perpetual evolution, because you're so much more than the identity of what you think you are. You just need to know who you are and then live as that.
Yeah, well, I think there is a little bit of a step before that where you may or may not have the tools to do whatever the heck you want to do in life. You'll figure that out down the road, whatever. You'll pick up the tools or you won't. Doesn't matter. There's a step beforehand, and that's you're allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowed to do literally anything you want within reason, within the law.
Yeah.
You're allowed to become anything you want. You can change your name. You can change your existence. You can change your focus. You can do a 180.
You can elevate your ways of thinking.
You can literally do anything you want, but you've got to believe that, and then you can get on with it.
Yeah, without that.
Anyway, I derailed Chance Burrows.
It's all good.
David.
It's all good.
David, we can't have him back on again. Look at how he derails the
derailing
conversation,
stuff left, right, and center.
You've got a topic,
You know what? The funny thing is, I got another one. As you guys were talking,
got all kinds.
I came up with a whole nother one, and I think this is a good thought process to go down. Is that a lot of times it takes people hitting rock bottom.
Yes.
Right. You hit that floor where you think nothing can get worse than this, and then there's a realization, at least in my mind, that you're like, wait, it can get worse than this. Right?
Can I tell you a story? I don't want to take so much time, but I got a good one.
All right, hit it.
So I left my job because the psychic fair offered me. I went to go to the local one that was in Brandon, Manitoba, and they were at first like, no, because you're not a psychic, you're not a crystal vendor. But I talked my way onto it, got onto it. Then they were like, you can come with us all across Canada, and I'm like, great. Now I can spread the message of my book and go across Canada. This is fantastic. So I did a couple dates, Regina, Calgary. Calgary was insane. Like I sold out of all the books that I brought for the whole tour, and I had to reorder and get more. It was incredible. My dreams were literally coming to fruition. I get to Saskatoon and I want to carry on with that vibe. The second day I'm here, I went to go get groceries. I go to just drop them off at the friend's house that I'm staying, which is right here. And a city street like sweeper backed into my car, impaling my radiator, exploded. And I was like, holy shit. This is how I get on with this tour. And like, now that was just taken away from me. So then I thought that was bad. And then a couple of days later, the guy who's running the event got kind of upset about an expectation that he created. And it was like a weird situation, but he basically said, like, we're parting ways, like, you're done now. You're not coming with us to Edmonton, even though I had an Airbnb booked and all this stuff. And so that really shook me. And this just happened like 2 days ago. So it was one of those things where I thought that was like bad. Then this other thing happened. I'm kicked off this tour. Like, oh my God, my world is crumbling down. But now I'm seeing so many other opportunities open up because of this. And so it's one of those things where you can literally I was taken to my knees. I had like those moments where I was literally crawling or crying like a baby, like, why is this happening? But once I kind of got past that and like, it was like a catharsis, it was out. And then I like grounded myself and then reflected about the whole situation. I realized I was going to go back to my beautiful family. There's going to be other opportunities down the road. This isn't over for me. Like, I remember like so many other things in my life that are so much worse than this, but like, it's just that perceptual thing where your problems are just a narrow perception. And then once you kind of broaden that out a bit, which takes skill and time, but when you do, you start to see that there's so many other doors and windows. It's literally infinite possibilities as we exist. So I just wanted to share that story because there's so many levels to it, because I did that within my own spiritual journey that like got me past my anxiety and depression. And now that I'm like in this like promotion, getting out there, connecting with people, this is like a different world. And so I'm using my own book as like a tool to guide me through these things as they happen. Yeah, just wanted to share that.
Absolutely, man. This is it actually kind of goes along with what I was thinking, was the fact that there are times that you think
your microphone, buddy.
My microphone.
Yeah, now it's working. Now that you're close to it.
I didn't move, but all right. So the thought I had was the fact that, rock bottom is different depending on where you are in your life. Rock bottom is different where it could be just a day, right? And your rock bottom is different than anybody else's. Shane, you got a thought? I can see something brewing in the back of your head there.
No, I mean, a lot of that resonates with me. I mean, playing around on social media, I mean, you realize, the only way to connect with people is just being your authentic self. But, I mean, going back to the rock bottom side, I think there's been lots of moments in my life where I felt like I've hit rock bottom, and I mean, to that point, you do come up with a silver lining out of all of it, and I think that that's important for people to understand. Is in your worst moment, you're actually going to find something really positive come out of it. So it's great to hear that. To hear that story, especially because that's how it happens. That's how it happens.
100%. Is there? Well, let's see. Are there any specific tools, or actually, before I even get to tools, Shaun, do you have any points on this? Because usually you like to push back on what I say. So, in terms
you haven't
of rock
said
bottom,
anything yet.
well, I think that there's a pretty general thought process in that when you think you've hit rock bottom, you're nowhere close, right? Like it can always get worse. But I think people need to hit a rock bottom or hit a point in their own minds where they go, I can't do this anymore, in order to make a large change in their life. What do you think?
Well, you're right to identify that, because I was not going to talk about it, but I will now, because I don't like the word.
Yeah.
I don't like the word rock bottom. And I think it's not that Shane is using it wrong, and it's not that David's using it wrong. It's not that anyone's using it wrong. I just don't like the word. And here's why. Because then people buy into their own nonsense. It's like, oh yeah, I'm in rock bottom. Okay. I hit rock bottom. Jeez, I'm validating my rock bottomness. Dude, there's levels to the game. That ain't rock bottom yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a moment in time.
Sure.
It's not the end state. It can always be worse. It can always be better. It's a non-staged continuum that you ebb and flow in a linear way throughout your entire life. Sometimes you're an 8.7 out of 10. Sometimes you're a 1.3 out of 10. And it ain't points. It ain't 0.35. It ain't anything other than it is an infinite or a non-scaled linear motion that you move up and down through in life. There is no rock bottom in my world. I don't like the word, because then it validates your rock bottomness, and I don't care for it.
I agree 100%. I think that the way it is that when you think something is good or you think something is bad, that's just an opinion, and what is beyond all of that. So, acceptance for what is, because like you could pop your tire in your car and be like, oh, what a terrible thing. But what if in 200 meters down the road, that would have been a fatal accident? Is that tire popping bad? Like, the judgment of good and bad is a duality that is beyond the truth. And so we get wrapped up in the drama of, oh, this is good. Oh, this is bad. Oh, and it's not. It's just, again, you're in that perpetual evolution of I'm present, I'm in the moment, and I'm executing to the best and highest consciousness that I could possibly offer. And I'm doing that out of my heart, and I'm using my mind like I play game like chess. I move my pieces, and I use the past to know and use my intuition to make those moves. And so it's all consoled through my heart. And again, it's through acceptance of what is. And I think that that's the most important thing, because the drama will take us through all these, like, oh, this is good. It's so far beyond that, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But you do have to recognize the moment. And so, like, I just heard some dude chirp about his radiator, and he didn't seem too impressed. That was you, by the way, David. And so, you had emotion connected to that. And so your emotion was higher than just, non-factor. You were actually emotional when you were telling that story. So there is emotion in the moment. So let's not pretend it doesn't happen, because it happens to all of us. But it's for us to control. So the emotion has to happen, but it can be something as simple as this. Dang, that's a bummer. Or it can be full tilt 10 out of 10. Go nuclear in the moment, jumping up and down like you're 3 years old, stomping your feet. There's all kinds of levels to emotion, but you can't be non-emotional about the moment, because then you're a robot. Then you're a Terminator 9000, which I used to be for a little while. Non-emotional, taking care of business. And it ain't a good place to be. And so you can't move that sort of, we'll call it skill or talent set, to be non-emotional throughout the remainder of your life to manage life, because it's a non-life if you're not applying emotion. It's understanding your scale of emotion in the moment that is calibrated to who you are. Like if you're highly emotional this year because of X, Y, and Z, if you take your highly emotional state and you dull it down into a non-authentic self, well, now you're running your emotions wrong. Like it's conversely wrong because you need to peak those out because that's who you are at this moment. You've got to learn how to like move through these wild emotional states, tamper them down either through your own peanut or someone else's peanut interrupting you with a pattern interrupt, getting a grip on those emotions until you can calibrate it into a bandwidth that is appropriate for how you want to run your life. And so, you know, it could be as simple as, dang, that's a bummer, or it could be as simple as, God, non-factor. But there has to be emotion in the moment, I guess is my point.
I like that. And, you know, I want to go back to the chess analogy here is that it is what it is for sure. Life is like life happens, right? You move a piece, someone else moves a piece. You move a piece, someone else moves a piece. You lose a piece. Dang, that did not go according to plan.
That's a bummer.
Right? That's a bummer. You lose your queen. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Unless you set it up that way. Right? Unless you set that trap, because there are a lot of strategies in chess that are set up to lose your queen ahead of time so that you can start taking other pieces outside of that. And so I think that's a big part of this is that it really is not only are the emotions there and they are manageable, but it could be part of the plan, right? And sometimes you have to, and you're going to have to lose your queen a dozen times, 24 times before you actually go, wait a second. I can't get upset about this.
Yeah.
It's a fun analogy, but it doesn't really play out in real life because you only get one game of chess, by the way.
Well, yes, but
how many queens do you get in one game? Just one? Okay, check.
One queen, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
But you know what the analogy
I understand the spirit of what you're trying to say.
We do have a really good comment here that I want to get that I want to hit right off the bat. But Jazza says hope is a good thing in positive manner. And I think hope is a good thing, but it is not a course of action. And so it's always good to be hopeful, but you can't rely on hope to actually.
You need belief.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other one here, which is from Winterstorm, rock bottom in high school could be breaking up with a girlfriend. Rock bottom as an adult could be losing a child.
Mm-hmm.
Perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really applies to everything that we're talking about, is that how you actually view it determines how big a deal or little a deal it is.
Mm-hmm.
And here's another little pro tip. So the older you get, the easier it is to put that into context. And so when you're a teenager in high school, just full of emotions, and you lose your favoriteest girlfriend ever, I barely remember her name. So it was Laurel. So when you lose your girlfriend, keep it real. Got to keep it real. You know what I'm saying? So when you lose your girlfriend, it's a big deal in high school, but now it isn't. Now, what is context? So, you know, times are tough in high school. I lost a girlfriend, but I also lost my brother. He committed suicide due to bullying. And so then it was a big deal. Now it's a big deal, but a different big deal. Because through time, I've managed to not get right with it, but contextualize it through my life journey and be able to manage it to some degree, or use it as a tool to some degree, or kind of be right with the moment to some degree, far more than when I was like 16 years old. And so using rock bottom as the example, or using, you know, those hope, or when you're in high school moments, in time, all of these things sort themselves out. If you keep your nose to the grindstone, you stay disciplined and focused on always doing your best. A couple decades, 3 decades, 4, 7 decades later, however long it takes, eventually you'll be able to look backwards and think, yeah, I think I got a sense of context now.
I like that. Any thoughts, guys? Shane?
That's the silver lining. I don't think there's a lot of experiences that you're going to have in life, whether you're up or down, that you don't learn something from. And it may take longer time to get over certain situations, certain events. But I mean, you do have to continually move forward. You can't dwell on the past, so to speak. So yeah, in that context, I'm glad that that you can move on. But again, you have to take something away from it. You have to learn, how to deal with these situations. Yeah, that I think builds up your character.
And I think an additional piece to that, and Shane, I know you understand this. It's not just the idea of learning in the moment or growing out of the moment or improving somehow due to the moment, but it's also learning the lesson for yourself and the team. Like, I study things to improve myself, but more correctly, I study myself to improve the world around me.
Sure.
And so most of my time contemplating is spent about the world, not about Shaun. And like, I try to improve myself on the daily, of course, but I'm trying to change the world a little bit. And so my time is spent on that. So I think as a young man, I wish someone could have like punched me hard in the shoulder to wake me up and say, hey, dude, like, get a grip on yourself, but start learning how to get a grip on the world around you so that you can help improve it. Learn how to work the team.
Would you have listened?
Yeah.
Well, depending on what age. So you're right. That's a great question. Depending on what age, I wouldn't have at 18, maybe, unless it was the right dude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I've said this before. It's the right person at the right time saying the right thing. The other R in that sentence is respect. So you can say you can hit all of those marks, but if I don't respect you, you didn't say a word.
Exactly.
And so at 18, right guy, right thing, right time from the right person that I respect, hell yeah, I would have listened. But it took a few years for me to start bumping into people that I respected. And so that wasn't on day one. That was on year X. And when it started happening, when I became surrounded by men that were better than me, were more inspiring, were hard charging more than I was, were like what I wanted to be, we'll call it. Once I started respecting that, then I started paying a little more attention to detail.
I think there's a point here too that is really important to get to, and that is early on in life. I don't know how many of us understand how much we actually affect the world around us. Right? When you're a young man, especially, you don't really see any of the changes that happen based on how you act, and it is very challenging to then push that out into the future and say, oh well, if I work at this, things will change later on, because we're still time dilated, right? We're all focused on right now as a young man. When you're 17, 18, it's all about right now, not 10 years down the road, not 20 years down the road. And I was talking to Seb yesterday, and I was joking about this, was that I never thought I was going to make it out of my 20s. I don't think any of us really did. I think it was just like, yeah, we're here. It's crazy. Probably won't make it out of this, but whatever. But the concept of the fact that we can actually affect the people around us, the world around us, with concerted effort. And I don't think we get that as young men.
Dude, I'm just barely understanding it now. I'm freaking 60 this year. How was I supposed to understand it at 20? I mean,
underachiever there, Shaun.
I literally every day tell 20-odd-year-olds what you just said. Like, wake up. This is how it plays out. This is the trajectory. This is what you're going to come to understand. And then when you're my age, instead of looking backwards and learning all of this, just listen to me now. Get the wisdom and start looking ahead with all of it tucked into your right pocket. That's not how it works. Because maybe as a young man or a young woman, you think you've got it all figured out, and you don't need to listen to that old dude. I know, because I used to be that young dude not wanting to listen to that old dude. But you got to find the right person at the right time saying the right thing. If you respect them, you'll execute.
I like that a lot.
Life will show us like our lessons and what we need. I think that that's the way it goes, is that we, like, from what these psychics are telling me, we live like these past lives. I don't know if I'm there yet in understanding that, but like the idea is that you keep living a life until you live the one that's true to yourself. But what I did want to point out was that the smallest of actions can ripple out to the biggest of things. And you never know how much empathy and compassion and unconditional love will go. I was not taught unconditional love as a child or even as a young adult. And I never really connected with my heart. And my life forced me to a point where I was in such a suffering state of mind because of this lack of love in my life, because everything was the antithesis of that. And so it pushed me to tap into what unconditional love was. And in that, it showed me it. So everything had to be just as it was to push me to that. So I think that our life is our lesson, and we all go through these different progressions at different times in our lives. Like, it wasn't until I was, just a couple of years ago, going through my spiritual awakening journey, that again, I tapped into my heart and love and unconditional love and empathy. And what that does is, now when I'm setting up my booth and I'm sharing the message of what I do, I just sit and I get to know the person across from me. I don't try and sell them a book. I just try, what's your struggle? Because I wrote a book that I believe can guide you in a general way, where you can take your own experience and then use that to wake yourself up. And so that's what I think it is just, we all go through things. It's just whether or not we're being given the information to take that experience that we have and use it to elevate our ways of thinking and being, so that we can live a life true to ourselves, because we suffer when we don't.
That's very true.
Do you know what I find? Taking your dialogue just now and condensing it down into I'll paraphrase it, and I'll say this. Most army goofs don't understand anything that you just said. And it's not because you can't speak. I mean, you speak well. I totally understood it. But most army goofs don't understand what you just said, because we're not prone to listening to that kind of talk.
It's psychological conditioning that is programmed to limit you, and that's
dude. I get it.
Yeah,
I know. That's why I started this sentence.
Yeah.
And so it's a problem out there, and I think that I haven't seen your book. I don't know what it says. I don't even know what's on page 1. But any tool that will help someone open their mind is a good tool, and that's kind of what we're trying to do over here. Listen, if I say unconditional love, it means something different than if you say unconditional love, because people who know me would go like this: what did he just say? Unconditional love? I rarely hear him say that. I thought he was all about punching people in the throat. So
mostly
it's a language thing too. Yeah, the words you choose,
sure.
they're all spells.
For sure. So when I'm speaking in front of the microphone, I try to choose my words carefully. And I don't throw out random words like unconditional love without much thought, because I know the power it has when I say it, not you say it. Maybe when you say it, it has more power than me. I don't know. I'm not making that contextual comparison. I'm just saying people ain't used to hearing me say it. And so these are tools that have to be used carefully, wisely, like a scalpel sometimes, strategically. And so I reserve my unconditional love speech. Rarely do I throw it out, because it has kind of power if you don't overuse it. So there's using it carefully, there's overusing it, and there's underusing it. It's for us to figure out how that all plays out in language.
But because so many people don't speak about it, that's why I shout it from the rooftops.
And then you become the boy who cried wolf. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just gonna be me.
I'm just, oh, I know, dude. I'm not trying to change you. You get all crazy and yell from the roof.
Yeah.
And eventually people will get tired of yelling. I'm just saying there's a population, there's a segment of the world that it won't appeal to. So if you choose a strategy, I'm just going to yell from the roof until my voice goes raw. That'll work for a section of society. But I believe that our jobs is to reach everyone. And so that requires a more than one-dimensional effort of, I'm going to do me and yell from the rooftop. I know that's not what you're saying. I'm paraphrasing. But it has to be a multifaceted approach. It has to be like a campaign, man, like a battlefield, you know? If you truly believe in what you are doing is good, and you want to be a light warrior, then own the battlefield. Don't just own a tiny little battle, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's a good point in that it is a battle space, right? And there are multiple pieces of terrain in there, and there's life is not a one like a linear path, right? We can't just consistently think that this is the way, because the way changes and it shifts, and it as you develop insight into your own actions, into your own abilities, into your own your own history, how you interpret the things that have happened to you in your past is going to change the way you look at the future. And so I think that is that's an important piece, is that if you limit yourself to any one path, whether it be helpful or not, or moving forward or not, or trying to inspire people or not, or we've all known and met people who are negative Nellies, or completely depressed, or in really bad places in their lives, or all these things that we could give them one tool and say, hey, this will get you out of there. But will it? Might not. Much better to hand someone a plethora of tools and say, here, try it, see what happens, see what works for you. And I think that's a key point, is that these things change every day, all the time, as the world changes.
I'll tell you what doesn't change is the enemy. So I just did a SMESC, Situation Mission Execution Service and Support Command in SIGs. The enemy in this case, in David's case, is the person who isn't listening to him. I know these are poorly chosen words. I'm just trying to get us across to the point. So you're analyzing the enemy who isn't listening, and you need them to listen. And so the enemy in this case is a bunch of soldiers, we'll say, who you feel would benefit from hearing about how light work, or how spiritual work, or how you can enlighten yourself and evolve up a couple of layers. If you're using the wrong language with them, of course, they're bouncing. And if you're standing on a roof and yelling, they're bouncing. Because as a veteran, or if as a young buck, someone would have been yelling to me about light warriors, I'd be like, dude, you're about to get punched in the head. I don't want to hear it, because that's who I was back then. I didn't want to hear a pile of nonsense. I just wanted to get into the bar. And so with veterans as the example, if that's part of your demographic, you would need to have multifaceted approaches to putting out the word. And I know you're not yelling from the rooftop. I've got to keep going back to that as the example to illustrate the point that there's times when you've got to be super quiet and just sit in the back corner and just listen to
sometimes I do that. Like when I was at the psychic event, I would just put my headphones in and meditate, and people would be like, what is this guy up to?
I know I'm this is for the internet, not for you.
Yeah.
There's approaches to veterans. There's approaches to non-veterans. There's approaches to space aliens. We've all got different approaches that we need to put the hook in to someone. And sometimes the hook shouldn't be put into whoever's standing in front of you, because that hook ain't good for them. So it's figuring all of that stuff out. And sometimes David never yells, but if he did yell, he wouldn't have the nuance to understand the person who's receiving the yelling.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Shane, you got any thoughts? You've been awfully quiet up there.
Well, I'm just listening. I'm taking it all in. I agree with it for the most part, but I mean, to me, that's just simple selling. The unfortunate part is you won't be able to get everybody on side. There's just no possible way. But I think the goal is just because you're trying to bring the majority of people along and get them to listen to your story and make some good life decisions from there. That's really the thing.
Yeah. I wrote it, and people could take it or leave it. It's just good information that I didn't think that. Again, the mind is the most powerful tool in the universe. We are not getting an owner's manual, so I just wanted to create one. And if you mess with it, good. If you don't, that's okay too.
Yeah. And some people really pick it up in later life. They're going to pick it up early on. I mean, all you can do is hope for the best. The fact remains is that you have opportunities like this, being online or being on social media to get that message out. Mm-hmm. I mean, what a great world to live in if you use it the right way. To share that message. So yeah. Selling 101.
I really like the fact that we have this as a tool in society is something that is underutilized, I think, or maybe it's overutilized in a negative way. Let me put it that way. It's overutilized in a way that's not really helpful for a lot of people, but it could be. And I utilize this for vets. I utilize, I do lots of the fact that I could talk to somebody on the other side of the world on this thing, right? Like it's kind of mind blowing. And I mean, especially for, yourself and Shaun, you guys were raised in a point in time when, like, I'm going to go back in the day. I mean, dinosaurs were walking around when Shaun was there, but it's
and it stopped being mind blowing to me about 260 live chats ago. So
yes, you've been at it for a little while.
I'm kind of over it.
Yeah, but what do you got?
So speaking of tools, yes, this is an interesting tool, but more importantly, specifically this tool that we have right now in front of us is Shane and David. And so what I see is a representation of a master seller and someone who is getting into the selling game. Now, those are poor choices, poor titles, poor words, I know, but at least it'll get us going in the general direction. Exactly. So rather than talking about one-dimensional demographic reach and whatnot, I'm more interested in this tool that we have in real time, and that is, Shane, do you have any ideas for David in respect to how to get a broader reach in what he's trying to do right now? I'm not talking about double or triple your psychic fares. I'm talking about, is there another way for you to maybe mention something that you've picked up over the years?
Really, a lot of it comes back down to listening. Everybody has, everybody, let me rephrase that. Yeah, the people you're talking to, they all have different needs. Their ears are either big or small, and or they're just closed off, like I mentioned. So, I mean, don't disappoint yourself. Work towards, talking or getting your message out to the majority, but listen above all, because you might be very close with some of them, and one way to turn them off quick is talking over them.
Yeah, I get that. So I went through a little bit of a lesson here in that, where the first week I was doing it, it was like the icebreaker. It was like, what am I doing? I really was proud of what I created, but there was still a little bit of, I was scared a little bit. Just putting this out there, right? So the first event was like an icebreaker. The second one, I knew I could do it. I was connecting with people and it was great, but I was also selling them because I got a job in sales to develop my interpersonal dynamics. And then I went right into that to utilize those skills to try and make up for my lack of compassion. And I realized that because a psychic pointed it out. But so the second event, I was always like doing my, hi, I'm Dave. This is my book, blah, 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 blah. And then they'd be like, oh, that sounds great. I'll buy one. Like, yeah, I'm doing great. But then a psychic came up to me and was like, you don't need to sell people. You just need to be your authentic self. And also what it taught me too is understanding their struggles, because like I knew my struggles and I knew my blueprint to unraveling madness within myself. But it's more powerful if I know their struggles and then I can say, hey, these tools are in there for you. Some of these tools, again, might not resonate with you, but these ones will. And I can showcase that. And then you can use this as a reference guide that whenever these struggles pop up, you could just read this little part and then be illuminated by the information instead of not having anything. And so once I made that switch to, I'm not trying to sell somebody and I'm just genuinely trying to connect with them on a deep level where what's going on, what do you struggle with? Because like, we just kind of like showed each other our wounds, and that's vulnerable. But it was also when everything really tipped and got incredible, because once I made that switch from selling to genuine,
yes, everything
changed.
It's relationship building versus transactional selling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was really about the connection, which was my intention the original time. But again, I left my job. I needed to make an income. So that kind of crept into my mind unconsciously. And then once I was woken up to that by the psychic kind of pointing it out, I realized, okay, that's the block. Remove the block, connect deeper with people, have that compassion, listen, use your ears. And that is a superpower. Absolutely. 100% agree. And thank you for, sharing.
Yeah. I love a good superpower, but it's how you use your superpower. And now to the crunch, I'm curious. So, do you want to use your superpower relationally, or do you want to use it scalably? And so you're on the internet right now. It's hard to build a relationship unless we're doing it right now, buddy.
Mhm.
So it's hard. It's hard to get all psychic with someone remotely. I know it can be done. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's not my point. It's harder. And so it's also hard to scale. There's only 4 of us here right now, and a whole pile of people who may or may not listen in the future who you can't connect to right now. And so the question would be that your superpower, you're going to get to a point of a branching decision. Maybe you've already thought it, where you get to decide, oh, I'm just going to hang out with people one-on-one. They're right in front of me. I poke them and I get it. Or bam, I go this direction and now I'm scaling up and I'm going to be, you know, not one-on-one. So what are your thoughts on that?
The exact thing that you just said. Yeah. So when I had my on my knees crying moment just a couple of days ago, when all the world came down on me, poor me, I had that one-on-one opportunity of being at the psychic fair, getting a book in hands of people, spreading seeds. And I thought that was it. But what was always being put off was my people telling me, hey, you should start a YouTube channel. And I would always be like, yeah, there we go. You know, but now I have an opportunity to do that. And so if I create one video and then somebody can watch that forever, that's powerful. And so it's powerful. It's just what you're saying, where again, it's when I'm doing it at the psychic fairs that I was on, I was one-on-one with somebody and it was beautiful.
It is beautiful.
But it was done there. I mean, not done there because they'll read the book, be illuminated by it, tell their friends, blah, 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 and it'll branch out, whatever. But if I were to create a fantastic relational YouTube video that could be watched anytime, forever, well, now I can reach more people. Now I can do more things, and I can spread this out in a way where, and that's that like I was waiting for why is this happening for me, and instead of to me, because then I was the victim. I was the victim for a couple of days until I became the hero of this is happening for me. Why? Okay, well, maybe it's time to start that YouTube channel. And when I do, I'm going to do it I'm going to grow. I mean, it's not going to be great. I don't know what it'll be, whatever. It's just, I'll get better at it. And eventually it'll turn into something that'll be incredible. And that's how I could reach a lot of people.
Okay. Now I'm just going to throw a cautionary note in. I didn't know if we'd get to this point. It's kind of where I expected we might get. So that's why I feel obligated to throw out this cautionary note. So you've got, and this may not happen to you, buddy. Maybe you've got it all nailed. But at some point you were one-on-oneing and it's seductive. Like, it's seductive. And then you decide, I'm going to scale up and I'm going to go with the YouTube or the IG or the socials, whatever. Now you ain't one-on-oneing. And there's going to be a phase there where it is quite the opposite of seductive. Is like, I'm out of here. This sucks. Sucks isn't the same as seductive. And so you're going to go through a transitionary phase there where you'll probably want to quit. Don't. Or you will suck. Yes. So it's that transitionary phase where you've got to keep your nose to the grindstone, stay focused and disciplined on understanding that I can make this happen. Dude, you're a freaking light worker. Yeah. Make it happen.
Yeah.
Oh, I will. What I'm saying?
When I wrote the book, I would think about the people that would want or need it in a way where it could be a resource for them. And once I kind of did this fair, and I was taking pictures with all the good connections that I have, and I still have those on my phone. So that's something that I'll probably prime myself with, is I'll remember all those connections with those people that I made, and I'll think about those are the people that would be watching these videos. And so that would be in my mind that this is what it's for. This is who it's for, and this is what it can do. Because if I can create something that is magical, it can illuminate the world.
Mm-hmm. I dig it. Shane, speaking of magical and illuminating the world, how are you doing that, by the way?
That's a good question.
Well, I mean, even going backwards to the last comment, yeah, don't disconnect from real life. Social media is a wonderful thing and it's a great marketing tool. Just don't disconnect from that face-to-face conversation, but come up with a great marketing plan for your social, especially YouTube. How do I do it? How do I illuminate Dave? Hey, there are good days, there are bad days. Let's face it. I mean, nobody's perfect all the time. But you try and wake up every morning with a routine and a positive attitude, and come in and make the most of the day. But I think, part of what makes it worthwhile getting up in the morning is knowing that you can make a difference in people's lives. I mean, professionally, I get to do it with selling homes, selling dreams, really. Yeah. Personally, I get to not only affect my family, but I get to affect other people that I do meet on social media. So here's a little hint, or a tip rather, how to do it is you make all these connections, and if somebody asks you out for coffee, try going out every once in a while and imparting your knowledge on them, because that can actually be fun. It's really kind of a two-way street. I've sat down with other CEOs. I've sat down with high school students writing a paper. And for 45 minutes, I mean, that's probably the best 45 minutes you're going to spend every week or two, just sharing what you've learned in life. Going back to earlier on Shaun's comment about the right person in front of you. That's one way to do it.
Yeah, it should be a win-win. It should be them winning, and it should be you winning. And winning shouldn't be that feeling of, oh, I'm imparting so much wisdom, I'm winning. It should be, I want to learn something from this little dude in front of me. Grade 10? Are you kidding me? Make me smarter, grade 10, kid. And so I'm looking for wisdom in any conversation. That's why I love this place. I come to learn. So I think that it is important that, just like Shane said, to identify these opportunities that don't just show up. We make them show up. I mean, the random convo in the coffee lineup only happens if we intentionally choose to go and hit a coffee lineup and then keep our minds open to the opportunity of the dude behind me having something to say. And so it's our job to make those win-wins happen for sure.
I don't discount like any sort of interaction or anything. Like one of my wisest teachers was my daughter when she was born. Like watching the blank canvas we start out as, it was really a huge tool for me to see what we become if we let it. And so anytime I interact with anybody, I definitely understand that it's a learning experience, no matter what walk of life or what age or what demographic or what nationality. I try and see the beyond all that, because once I connected to this oneness, I understand people from all walks of life. And because I've seen so many walks of life in my time in the Army and in times of just traveling and doing music stuff. And so I definitely understand the weight of the present moment, in that it's always a learning opportunity, and I try and take the most out of it. That's why I journal everything still to this day, because if some kid says something, and I'm at my son's soccer game, I'll write it down if I think it's profound, because I want to carry that knowledge, even if it's coming from a 10-year-old. I don't have an ego where I think that only wise people are old men with beards,
Dude, are you calling me out?
You don't like my beard? What's that? What's going on here?
What the hell? This is getting personal now.
It's on now. Here we go.
You don't know me. So question for you. When you write down those things from the kid out at the soccer game or whatever, something profound, which I totally dig, bro. That's like you cracked it out of the park on that one. Then what do you do with it?
I reflect. So I'll always look back, and I carry. It's almost like a carrying forward. So I just keep writing and writing and writing. But I always go, when I wake up in the morning after my meditation, I go back about whatever feels right, maybe 5, 6, 7 pages, and maybe I write in 1 or 2 a day, and maybe more. But I'll always go back and just kind of, it's like a carrying forward of information, and it evolves into how it all kind of connects and correlates, because the book that I write in is linear, but the ideas that I think of are not linear. So I try and use a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then like, how do these connect, and how do they, and then that's how everything kind of evolves and takes it to the next level for me, because all information can be used, and again, I think we're all kind of guided through our life experience. So it's just about a reflection of, if I thought that kid said something smart, and then I tie that into some lesson that I'm currently learning, it can really evolve in a bigger way, where again, it's something that I like to creatively write. So it's something that just carries forward.
I love that. Now I will say this, and this is not for anyone here on this panel. This is for the entire interwebs. It's a great approach. It's an amazing approach, as you just described it. I always look for the upside downside, or the threat non-threat. And so the threat in this case is if you so singly minded cherry pick things out from life, write them down, and then singularly mind reflect on them, and then singularly mind execute against in the future, etc. You're not bouncing the ideas off of anyone else. You're not contextualizing against some other super young dude who doesn't have a beard and is mega wise. And so you've got to kind of bounce off your own ideas off someone who either you respect or you appreciate their opinion or whatever, in order to contextualize that you haven't gone too far off the deep end or derailed yourself with the mega wisdom that is now like making you the Unabomber. And so we can kind of laugh about it and say, oh, that'll never happen. And yet it does.
Yeah.
And so the idea being that if you keep your little bubble wrap world and you have it all in a little bubble wrap book and you bubble wrap your way through life, at some point, decades later, now you're the weirdo. Whereas by contextualizing things against other people, you can get a better sense of, oh, I just went a little too off the deep end on that one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it centers you.
And I know that's not a threat for you. I know that's not an issue for you, but I just want to get it out there to the interwebs.
Yeah, no, I talk about that in a part about my book about selecting wise teachers. And I say that, you shouldn't just accept everything that you hear and see because maybe it's not aligned to your truth. And once you tap into knowing what your truth is, like then you use, I would use that as like a reference. So I wouldn't blindly accept anything. Like even if you say something to me, I'll take it in and then I'll reflect on it in my meditation. And then if I resonate and align with it, then I'll accept it. But it's not immediate for me. And I always reference what I hear back within my own truth because maybe somebody has a polarizing opinion. Maybe somebody has something that is similar, but just said a different way. And so I always bounce everything that I hear and see off of what truth I found within myself underneath all those psychological programs.
And I will say this finally, that last piece, and then I'll get out of this microphone. I pursue polarizing opinions.
Yeah.
If Shane wants to tell me that I'm completely wrong, he's now my new best friend. Because I don't want to hear someone who constantly agrees with me. That was a long time ago.
Exactly.
For me. Now I'm pursuing. Yeah, thanks for agreeing, pal. Now I'm pursuing people who don't agree with me on a number of subjects.
It opens your perception so much more, so that you can see wider, and then you have true intelligence and true wisdom.
Well, let's not go that far. I mean,
yeah. I mean, Shaun definitely does not have truth.
That's why I'm seeking polarizing.
There we go.
Yeah.
We do have a couple comments, and then we're going to have to wrap it up. But really great conversation today. It's been fantastic. First off, Zach. What's up, Zach? How's it going, man? Good to see you.
There he is.
Daniel jumped on a little bit late, but he's good to go in here. But Winterstorm throws up another comment here. Remember not just to do things for people you know you can help. They will come to you naturally. Do it for those you don't know they need your help. Do things daily with that in mind. I think that's a really great point. And I had one little thing before we shut her down is buyer's remorse. I wanted to drop this in because we were talking about sales a little bit, but I think honestly, when you hit rock bottom, it basically is buyer's remorse. It's a point where you're like, I don't like the thing that I got now. And it usually comes from being sold something you don't need. And guess who sold it to you?
A realtor.
You did.
Oh,
right.
Dang.
It's gonna. No, but that's the thing is that, I did some sales when I was a kid, and the one thing I watched was my boss, who was a very pushy salesman. He was constantly like, you need to buy that, you need to buy this, and you need to have these things. And it was always you got to do these things. And he never got any return customers. People would like buy something and then they would never come back. And my whole style of selling was just talking to people. Just engage with them, right? You listen. Oh, you like that? Oh, you like that? Oh, well, these things are available. You can try these things. They would always come back looking for my, not just my opinion, but for the discussion. And whether or not they bought something that day, they would come back the next day and the next day and the next day. And I think if you're going to talk to yourself and sell yourself something, you should do it in a way that you don't have buyer's remorse afterwards. And therefore, at least hopefully, you won't hit rock bottom. But then you do need to hit that every once in a while in order to learn.
If in fact it was a word.
Any final thoughts before we shut her down? Let's start with Shane. Anything off the top of your head that you want to share with the world before we shut her down?
Share with the world. Just be your authentic self. I mean, people are going to gravitate towards you, and if they don't, hey, it's their loss. You can still be yourself and be happy with the life you've created, and carry on from there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Dave, last final thoughts.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome. That's my mantra right now, and so I just wanted to speak that out into the world.
I like it. Shaun, anything brewing?
I'm constantly improvising. I'm not sure if I've adapted yet. So I will say this. Thanks for the conversation, fellas. Mm-hmm. Not the conversation that I expected. Well, I never have high expectations of my own efforts, but not the conversation that I thought we would be talking about, but the conversation that we probably needed to have, as it turns out. It was an interesting mix of enlightened spirituality and business marketing, all wrapped up into a fascinating little subject that, again, was barely scratched the surface. So what the heck do we do with this, boys? I mean, do we come back and talk about this same subject a little bit more? I don't want to get all freaky deaky on, I can predict the future or anything like that, but I'm predicting another session. Is that what's happening?
Might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking at Shane because I know he's kind of busy, and I know that Shane definitely needs to be part of it because he's looking like he's too chill. I want to put him under pressure. I want to put him on that hot seat.
He's just sitting there with a smile, going like, "Yes, Shaun's not talking to me right now."
Playing it cool, playing the gray man.
I like it. Well, you know what? Part 2. Yeah. To be determined. It will definitely happen in the future, as I guess that is continually my job to schedule these things. Yeah, thank you. I got
absolutely
promoted. I don't know. It's not really a promotion, is it?
Dude, it's a real privilege. It's an honor. You should have a little pin. You should make yourself a pin. Merch.
Ooh. You know what I could do? I can make a little pin. It would be like a torch with some wings, maybe. Dude, something having to do with like legit. Finding paths of some
sounds
sort.
Like you're finding paths.
That would maybe it would work. I don't know. It sounds something familiar about that, but we'll see what happens.
Whatever.
Anyway, as we all learn about each other, as we all build upon ourselves, and as we all grow as human beings, we can do that together here on the Collective. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Chimo.
Chimo.
Take care.